What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tirfon Orbital. I would like to go over an in-depth walkthrough on an install commission that I completed on a Courkrus. Now, the Courkrus was designed by my buddy Benji over at Nerfherder Customs, and it was produced by Jawas Junkyard. I believe they are still available. This hilt is a beast. I have talked ad nauseum about how much I love this hilt. I have one in my personal collection. It is one of the best sounding hilts that I own. So this particular install is not with one of my chassis that I designed for this hilt. I have put in a taco shop or chassis from Carlos at the taco shop. Carlos designed a specific metal master heirloom chassis for this hilt, and it is rad. So this is the first time that I have put a taco shop chassis in a Courkrus. I recently put a taco shop chassis in my personal Raxus. So these two experiences with the taco shop chassis were great. Install wise, I did not have any issues with wire management. This particular hilt was a breeze to install. The only thing that we have to deal with are magnets, and I'm used to doing that, dealing with that with chassis like this. Like a lot of the Goth chassis utilize magnets. So, but yeah, as far as like installability, very, very straightforward chassis to install on, even though there is a lot going on in this chassis, right? So we've got two lower crystals in the bottom of the chassis and upper crystal. We've got, animated PCB, switch PCBs that are in the upper part of the hilt. So there's a lot going on in this chassis. But with all that being said, I had a really good experience installing on it. And I happen to think that this chassis is perfect for this hilt. It looks really, really rad, right? So I want to come up top and talk about how to use the hilt, obviously, and we'll talk a little bit about the chassis and what went into it. And then, of course, we will do a demo, right? So let's go up top and jump right into it. Okay, so here it is. This is the Courkrus from Jawas Junkyard and Nerfherder Customs. I love this hilt. I love this hilt. I'm going to say this another 18 times during this video, but this is an awesome hilt, right? The chassis is also awesome. So at the request of the client, I did a pass of pewter rub and buff on the chassis itself. The brass pieces have also been weathered with brass black. And then I went back and knocked back some of the edges on that brass black just to make it look more weathered and worn. Here is our lower crystal chamber. We've got two crystals down here and an upper crystal. The two lower crystals are wired up with neopixels. These are the 5mm neopixels from KR Sabers. That's probably not even going to come up on camera because they're so small. I have some. I wanted to give an example of how tiny they are, right? I ordered a bunch of these from KR, from Cal. I wanted to have stock on hand because it takes a while for Cal to throw components across the ocean. So they're tiny, right? But they're perfectly designed, or the chassis rather is perfectly designed for those two neopixels to sit underneath those two bottom crystals. And then we have a single regular neopixel up top on that crystal. Here's our battery cover and board cover around back. And then of course we've got, so one of the many things I like about this hilt are the illuminated switches. So we've got a red and a green arrow that also serve as our switches. They are installed with some switch PCBs from Shtok Custom Works. They sit underneath this control box and they have a neopixel that faces up so you can get some animation. So those two are their own blade in the config. These bottom two are their own blade in the config. This top crystal is its own blade in the config. The client also requested that we get the PCb emitter animated separately. I was able to achieve that with sub blades. So there's a lot going on in the config on this install, right? But a really, really awesome looking chassis. Let's take a look at the board. So like I said, there was just very adequately placed channels for wire management. I actually wrapped some of the leads in some heat shrink tubing just to kind of help hide them. I also put Captain tape over this board. I feel I do this when there is a board cover because I'm iffy about having a piece of brass just kind of sitting on top of a bare board like that. And this is a relatively tight build in the grip. So I put Captain tape over the board just to help protect it a little bit. But really, really nicely designed. All the tolerances are perfect. It's just a really, really nice chassis. Here is the battery cover. This does take an 18350 battery, right? So let's do that right now. Negative polarity is towards the crystals, right? So you want to take the flat part of your battery, rest it in that battery tray, hit your kill switch.
Is the force.
That external kill switch. Let me get back to the... So there's Son of Corellia. Obviously, we want that on this guy. So there are those two animated crystals at the bottom. Our switches are also animated. And then obviously our PCB, right? So you get your battery in. Actually, let's put the cover back on. Slide your grip on, screw your grip in. You're ready to go. Just a great sounding hilt, man. Let's come down to the bottom. So another thing I neglected to mention, there's the animated PCB. I did weather this at the request of the client as well, right? So I've heat stained the emitter. That's been heat stained. I also heat stained the pommel, and there is a piece of brass mesh inside of that pommel. This was at the request of the client. They essentially wanted it heat stained exactly the way that my personal one was heat stained. So just another reason why I love this hilt. It's all steel, so you can heat stain stuff and get some color out of it. It looks really great. Such a great sounding hilt. Let's see what else we put on here.
Ancient integration.
All right. Let's put a blade in it. Okay, so this is a 1-inch blade holder. There is also a set screw in the middle of the emitter here. So you want to tighten that set screw so it's hugging your blade. And you're ready to go. I want to go back to Son of Corellia because so this first blade config, which is Son of Corellia, has been set up with a dual phase blade. So to activate dual phase, you want to hold down main, which is your green button, and twist it. And that's also going to change the hum. Such an awesome feature. Kyberphonic has updated his speeder font, Son of Corellia, to have an alternate hum. So that's how we achieve that different hum when you activate dual phase. Let's see what else we put on here. Just a great sounding hilt. Great sounding hilt. And how can you go wrong with an external kill switch? I mean, with Proffie board, having an external kill switch is awesome, right? Because unfortunately, we don't have deep sleep yet with Proffie board. But yeah, I love the features on this hilt. It's just a really, really solid, literally a solid hilt. It is heavy. It is a hefty boy, right? So anyhow, To the client, thank you very much for trusting me with your install. If anyone has any questions about the install on this particular hilt, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.